Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it's that time of year when things are presented for your consideration. And if you're within the sound of my voice, I'd like to do the same because you must be in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals in the entertainment industry and talk about not only current projects, but pick their brains and see where the discussion takes us. And if you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, and we certainly hope that you do, I mean, I know I'd appreciate it. You can do that over at Apple, over at Spotify, and you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel at In the Seats. Also, we'd really love it if you'd follow us on social media, either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for all sorts of updates. And finally, we'd love it if you'd visit us over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all sorts of movie news, reviews, from video on demand, from what's playing theatrically, where there is theatrical at this stage, and everything in between, because we love covering every little bit of cinema under the sun, and our team works hard, and I know they would appreciate you coming and giving us a visit. On this episode, we're actually we're going to be talking a little award season, but not necessarily the kind that you would expect, because we're going to be looking at a short film that is played at festivals all around the world, and it is being presented for consideration to possibly get nominated for an Oscar or anything else in between. The name of the film is called Windup, and is from writer-director Yibing Jiang. I apologize if I butchered that pronunciation, but she's a female filmmaker from China, and she really brings a very sort of relevant and personal story to the screen, because it's about a father who's trying to connect with his daughter, who happens to be sick and sort of in the hospital, and he plays this little wind-up music box with her favorite childhood tune, and he plays it over and over again while hoping that she'll wake up, and he's trying to stay strong through all this. And it really does speak to what so many people are going through these days, given what's going around in the world with COVID-19 and people losing loved ones. And it's a really poignant and beautiful little film. And I got the unique pleasure to sit down and talk not only with Yibing, but with the animation director, Jason Keane, just about the origins of the film and how they got it all done, especially during COVID, and just sort of the challenges of basically independent animation filmmaking, which you don't necessarily think is a thing, but it's becoming more and more prevalent these days, given the advances in technology. And we talked a bit about that too, and we hope you enjoy. No, I mean, first off, congratulations on the film. I mean, it was really it was a little heartbreaking, but it was very uplifting at the same time. Walk me through sort of the origin of the story, why you wanted to tell this particular story.
Windup was inspired by my personal experiences. I'm like the little girl in the film. Like, I was often sick when a kid. My memory of those days were foggy. On the other hand, from my parents' perspective, the event was way more serious. They told me they spent countless nights taking care of me and also fighting their own emotions. I didn't know why they were so worried when I was a kid, but as I got older, I started to empathize with their emotions, like what they worry about. Especially since I moved to US, far away from home, it makes me the one who always worry about them. Recently, Wuhan, because Wuhan is my hometown, there's coronavirus.
Yeah.
And quickly after the news, the whole city had to stop his cancer treatment because of overwhelming COVID patient. And both my cousins still need to work in hospital where there's a lot of coworkers already got infected. I video chat with my family as often as we could, but once the camera shut off, all the horrible thoughts just rushed back in because that was new and
Right.
the lockdown never happened before, really don't know what's going to happen next. And I remember that was the time we were crunching for this film. We animating the hospital sequence where the father feel hopeless and sits on the
Oh,
floor. At
wow.
that moment, I could totally sympathize his pain. I guess that this is a good example of life imitates arts, especially now at the time when people around the world are isolating and
For
craving for
sure.
connections. And some of us are preoccupied with the health and well-being of the loved ones. I think the story of Windup is very relevant.
Now, had you started this film before everything started to
Yeah.
happen, or okay, that's
Yeah, it's not like because the COVID we made this. It's like we have this idea and we're making it, and then the last month of the production COVID happened. And the good thing is like we use real-time rendering. So for me, it's great that like we are constantly try to make the story better. So we're constantly changing. But that's pretty like Jason hated it because he already finished the shot and then I changed the story.
I didn't hate the story. I just the fact that
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was just you know we're animating and then it was like, oh, here's a change, and I we have to like scrap some of the animation and keep going. But I mean, that's the story process, and because of real-time rendering, it makes it much more streamlined. We're able to complete it that much faster.
Yeah,
But,
we're rotating the camera with the animators.
yeah, but the theme of the sickness and hope, I think that resonates regardless of the pandemic and anything. I think a lot of people have that, need help in their life, and there's someone who's trying to help someone who needs kind of that inspiration to not give up. So I think it just resonates.
no, and you're absolutely right. And I mean, I was struck by, like you say, the real-time rendering and just sort of so much of the camera movement that you put into the film, and also sort of the earthier tones that the characters really had. It felt almost natural. It really was quite a beautiful thing. And I mean, I've got to imagine, especially sort of finishing up a film like this when everyone's sort of having to lock down is a bit of a challenge. Can you guys talk me a little bit just in terms of sort of the post process while you're in lockdown?
Actually, we are like kind of ahead of time. We have the artists all over the world, so most of us already work at home,
Okay.
use our computer before the pandemic.
So it was at the end of production when the pandemic was kind of, what do you call, ramping up in February.
Right.
Yeah, it's not affected to US yet. It's
But we had
only in China.
well, we had some Chinese artists, and then Yibing's family. They were starting to feel that their lockdown, ahead of US started happening.
Yeah.
So one of the animators on our team was kind of mentioning, well, I got to stay home. And then, his internet is a lot worse than at work. And he's just like, I'm sorry, I can't help it. I'm like, well, this must be serious.
It's more affecting our emotions, but
Right.
I try to not infect the schedule of the film. And, because most of us our producers still go to Italy for vacation. That was before it happened. So we don't, I thought the virus would go much faster, but like my boyfriend said, oh, it's fine. It's San Francisco. It will take a while to come here. I'm like, no, it's faster than you think.
What is it about sort of the animation process that you guys like as storytellers? Because I'm always fascinated to see why people sort of pick sort of animation to be able to tell stories. Because I mean, if there's certain technical things that obviously you have to know, but I can imagine creatively it allows for a lot of freedom at the same time.
Like you can easily change like, for example, if like you want to shot the first person view, sometimes you can just hide this character. Like in real film, you can never do that. Also, we can easily just change the clip of the camera so that if the wall is in front of you, you can change the clip, the wall is gone. Like in live action, that would be much, much harder to achieve things like that.
The beauty of animation is like it's limitless. Whatever you can imagine, you can get it to the screen without like physical, real limitations. So oftentimes, though, that could be an issue. It's like you're going too far, but yeah.
Also, for most of us, because we love animation, just because we love the style of like fantasy kind of film, so we tend to involve a lot of like a fascinating element into our film. So it won't be the same as like live action. A lot of live actions are really like real, and they're in real characters and real locations and things like that. And like animation, usually you can add a lot of things that would never happen in real life.
No, for sure. And I mean, it's one of those things because, especially when people from the outside looking in will think about animated films, be they feature or shorts, they think it's, oh, it's the Disney, it's Pixar, it's Sony, it's this, it's all got to happen inside sort of this big studio conglomerate kind of system. But how has sort of technology advanced to the point where really we can sort of see independent animation films being made like this one are being made right now? Like, walk me through sort of how the evolution of it has allowed people at home, or people like, well, obviously you guys at home, to be able to make a film like this.
I would say really thanks to the real-time rendering technology, because like think about traditionally, you usually need a huge render farm and usually need hours to render one single frame. So that like for small studio or students, there's not much of what you see is what you get. So it's there. That's why it needs a different process of the film department to actually achieve the result. Traditionally, the artist would have to imagine what the film look like as a final product. Usually, there are different steps. Like first someone modeled the environment, and then someone did characters, and then someone do the animation and lighting. But here, if we use real-time production, what you see is what you get, which means all the department can start together and collaborate and polish their artwork in parallel. So you can, if you are independent, you can find your friends, even like your friends in another part of the world is like, let's make something awesome. And then you can like start to plan things in parallel, because you can actually see everyone's doing, because in real time. Like for example, the animators are like actors in the film. Jason want to cover that part?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for real-time rendering, I mean, for us animators, we came from film and we didn't see real-time rendering, or we haven't experienced it. And then we jumped aboard and we animated a scene, plugged it into Unity, and boom, we got to see the final product like right there. And it was fairly magical. Our characters came to life. Normally it takes months to see that final render, and maybe even until we see it in the movie theater and like, oh, that's how that all looks like. So for us as animators and the actors, to see that, we believe more that we're the character, and the more we believe, the more authentic the performance is. And it's just that much faster. So I hope we continue doing more of this technology in the future.
Also, like, because I change in the story quite often in the process, and the real-time rendering really helps a lot. It means we can try different ideas.
Yeah.
Like we can try different cameras, we can try different lighting, we can try to change the color of the thing. And also, of course, we can try to change the story. It happens several times when a story change require a set of environment change as well. We could easily move a character and the whole set of animation in a completely different location and environment which is unthinkable in the traditional setup.
So it's the equivalent of doing different takes, like moving a camera, changing a light. It's that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely amazing. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, what ultimate, like, can you think back and go, is there like a moment in your lives or maybe a movie that you saw when you were young that you think got you into this business?
I wanted to become animator since I was 5. So I really think what the animators did is magical since very beginning.
Did you have a movie, Yibing, that kind of triggered that?
Yeah, if there's a movie that maybe triggered it for you.
I'm curious too.
I think when I was in college, I watched the movie from Makoto Shinkai, because before I always thought like, you want to make animation, you need a lot of education, and then once you got the industry, you focus on one little things.
Right.
And at that time we watch Disney films and watch Miyazaki films, and then you see the credits like hundreds and like people. But then there's Makoto Shinkai, and he spent 7 months and finished a 45 minutes animation, and he did like all by himself and asked his wife and friend to make some soundtrack. I was like, that's really cool. Maybe it's time that like regular people like us can just show our ideas. We don't need that much budget. We don't need a team of 100. Yeah, but that was like when I was already in college, and see the behind the scene of the movie he made, and start to realize that, yeah, I want to do something more independent and go from there.
What about you, Jason?
I don't think I have I'll probably, like, it's kind of like Yibing here. I don't feel like I have that one particular movie, but and for particular animation, actually, that took later in my life to kind of go for animation. I wanted to be a live action filmmaker.
Okay.
And so I think what triggered me was taking 2 VCRs and splicing, my footage and editing, and I was like, "Whoa! I can manipulate something. I can make a movie." And then from there, I started learning more and got the first computer. And wow, we could put this in the computer and start digitally editing and Premiere, the first Premiere or something. So, yeah. So that was my trigger.
I love it. You know what? I love hearing those stories, but you know what? Congratulations on a beautiful film, and keep making awesome stuff. And thank you for the time today. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye, Annie.
Bye.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.